I'm Frank Rubino. I'm Director of Industry Solutions for MarkLogic in New York. I'm here at my home in New Jersey to talk to you about data modeling. What's data modeling? Data modeling is finding new forms of data for new uses. Data could be rows, columns, tables, keys, joins, documents, indexes, or data can be cars, could be people, customers, could be chemicals, drugs. What if you could have fun with this? What if you could use a tool that made it sort of like a game to draw circles and lines that represent your data and represent your business problems and allow you to solve things in an incremental way? Because after all, what you have underneath this is an agile, flexible, multi-model database. This tool that I want to show you is called Envision, and it allows you to take circles and lines, which everybody in your organization can understand, and incrementally build those and integrate them directly with your production online sort of data hub that you're building. So let's get started. Let me show you this tool. This is Envision. This is the login screen. We use MarkLogic security to log in. This is your blank canvas where you can start to create. So let's do some creation here. Let's say I want to model a business of dog grooming. So I've got dogs, right? Create a dog here. And I've got some other business objects. For instance, kennels. I'll make a kennel. And I've got some relationship from dogs to kennels. I'll simply drag my arrows back and forth like this. I've got dogs, they relate one to many with kennels. I want to keep track of which dog visits which kennel. So this is how I start. And I can move this stuff around, get it how I like it. Pull this down here. I can select either dogs or kennels at this point. I see a little property sheet pops up. I can start to add properties, give the dog a name, and save that. And there's all kinds of cool stuff I can do with this interface. I can actually load other data models, which I might have on my disk. Got a couple of different data models here. I could save an image of the data model. So if I were communicating this model to someone at my IT department or in business, I could share it with them as a picture so they wouldn't need any special tool or anything to open it up. And that's as simple as it is to get started. It's a lot of fun pulling arrows back and forth between objects. I mean, it's a lot of what reminds me of those initial whiteboard meetings that you have when you're just starting to conceive of a project. Here's a data model I created for contact tracing during the COVID-19 pandemic. It's got persons, locations, events, and relationships between them. And I can see the properties and that I've assigned them. And the next thing that I would do once I had built this model is to go to Hub QuickStart, which is another web application that facilitates the building of data hubs very quickly. And there are these multi-step flows there that are automated, that are pretty much what you would just think of as data pipelines that pull data in, do some transformation, do some decoration, some metadata generation, and then make that data available for consumption. So I can define these flows and then I can just run them, clicking this run button. I'll ingest my stuff and map my events. And then once you ingest your data against this model that you've created in Envision, because Envision is integrated with Data Hub, these models are available to QuickStart to model against, and they're available at an entity services level. And if you know what that is, that's our programming model. So You can use JavaScript to program against these entity services objects, and you have total integration between your Envision tool and your Hub data. So once you pull that data in and it's indexed by MarkLogic, we can use Envision to take a look at the shape that data has taken against the data model. So what I see here is I've got event instances in my database, and I can look at the values of those instance properties here on the right, just like I modeled back in my Connect screen. So here's my Connect graph. Got events, persons, and locations. Here are the data objects that I ingested. Events, places, and people. And so having done that, having built that model and seen this sample of data that's come in, I'm really happy with this iteration of data modeling. And I can go and pull all the data into my data hub and provide it to services that want to consume it. Now, there's one thing that I'm interested in surfacing here after talking to the business owner of the contact tracing application. Each one of these people objects has got a health condition. And I can pretty much take a look around at all these health conditions. And I could even search on them in my search field and find people who have particular health conditions in my graph. So for instance, I can type up here the property CV not tested, and then find the two people who've got that. But my business owner says that caseworkers want a different kind of view. They want something a little bit more obvious about what the conditions of people are, and they want it to show up on the graph. So there's a solution for that. If we head back to Connect, we're going to create a different kind of entity. This entity is called a concept. I'm going to, now this concept here, I'm going to call this condition. I'm going to create this and I'll show you in a second. A concept is different from an entity. An entity is an object that's in the database. It's persistent. You could, if you were coming at this from a SQL point of view, you might think of it as a row in a table. From a NoSQL point of view, you might think of it as a document. So each one of these entities is a document or a row in a table. This kind of thing, which I just created, which is called a concept, is more like a projection. In each of my person objects, I have this property called health condition. Health condition has a value that I'd like to see projected as a node on my semantic graph. Okay, so I can use MarkLogic's flexible indexing to make triples that will allow those nodes to be projected on the Explorer graph and visualize the conditions of people in a way that the case managers want to see. I first have to add a relationship between people and conditions. And we're going to call that simply has condition. And when I pull this property menu down, it's going to show me properties that are available in the person entities. Now, the one I'm interested in is health condition. And when I save it, I have now created a graphable projected value. And the technology under the hood there is TDE. Those of you who know what that is, that's terrific. Those of you who don't might want to go and take a look at the TDE information on MarkLogic's website. But TDE is a way of using the MarkLogic indexes. It's kind of like index jujitsu and uses the power of the indexes to create a new lens on the data. And that new lens is something I can look at on my Explorer graph, and I can see already that I've got a condition, a relationship between two people that is defined by a shared condition here. And if I take a look at some of these other people on my graph and expand their conditions, I can see things like the fact that I've got two people, one's positive and one's symptomatic, and they're both connected to this Starbucks. And now Jane up here, who's also connected to the Starbucks, is not tested yet. So that might cause me as a case manager to add Jane to the set of people who I follow. I'm going to switch now to take a look at the Envision GitHub repo. And this is the place where you would come if you wanted to use Envision and do what I just showed you. If you want to contribute, of course, there's documentation for that. And my colleague, David Baldry, is going to talk in detail about what it's like to develop against the Envision code base. But if you were just going to use it, you would come over here and grab the jar and install it as the instructions say. I really do hope you'll take a look at Envision and have some fun modeling your data. I want to thank you for spending some time with me.